Yeah, but then you do get a cool moment where Coop kind of pushes back on Paul. I mean, it gets kind of tense, and that's the whole reason why Nick is like, "Okay, let's go to play basketball," because like Coop pushes back really hard on him. Oh, this is the one where it's the girls have their self-defense night and the boys have their like whatever night, and the guy breaks his leg.
Yes.
It's honestly such an insane part of the plot.
The long and short of it is, we have a little split in this episode because we have Coop, Andrew Cooper, played by Jon Hamm. He and the boys are hanging out over at his old house where the new live-in partner, Nick, Mr. Strong-Ass Nick, the gym owner, he's having all the boys over for a night. And Coop gets talked into it by his friend Barney, who didn't really want to go. And then the girls, Mel, his ex-wife, as well as Samantha, his lover, Olivia Munn, they're all invited to a self-defense night with wine. And you know what? What a great pairing for rich people. Yeah. Self-defense and wine. Nothing could go wrong. And edibles. And edibles, you're right.
I'm pretty sure they're all crossed and trying to do the self-defense stuff.
Which made for some funny moments of, are they serious? Are they not? Are they fighting? Are they not?
Yeah.
You kind of love to see a love triangle break down that way. Does she know? I don't know. She must know. Well, intuition. Well, now they're just wrestling.
Yeah. Can I just say, Olivia Munn, if you're listening to this, I would marry you today. Today. Just, give me a chance.
She's stuck with John Mulaney through all of his bullshit. And you know what? It's personal and it's hard. But it's
she's already married? Never mind. Sorry. Hey,
yeah. She's married.
Hey, you're a married woman. It's fine.
If you ever anything happens to John Mulaney,
hit me up.
If there's an opening. Yeah, this is probably one of the first things I've seen her in a long time. I never watched The Newsroom, other than a few episodes. She was in that.
Did you ever watch G4 TV?
What's that? Oh, the gaming thing?
Yeah, that's where she got her start.
I did not realize that.
She was one of the co-hosts of Attack of the Show. And that's where I first was introduced to Olivia Munn, was on G4 TV. So I've been following her for a while, since before she was an actress, where she was just a co-host of a TV show.
Out of context, that sounds creepy. I've been following her for a while.
I know. But
you're right. Because like looking at her IMDb, I'm like, oh, Claw hostess on date night, or Chess Roberts in Iron Man 2. What? She was in one episode of Chuck, one episode of Robot Chicken, 14 episode of Perfect Couples. Who even remembers that show from a year? Magic Mike.
Doesn't age.
There's racial things there, but yeah. Anyways.
Oh, really?
Well, Asians, there's a whole thing about them never aging. All I'll say is, I just know with all the crap with John Mulaney and his drug addiction, how many people it's influenced. I'm like, she's stuck with it and has his babies. But she's great in this, and I think she plays like the perfect burned ex-wife of like a rich fast food chain restaurant. Whatever. Yeah. Has your opinion of the show changed as it's moved on?
No, I still think that ultimately it continues to be a subtle critique of upper class white people, rich people culture. Yeah. The whole theme song is Keeping Up with the Joneses. And like, that's the whole through line of the show, is that you get these people who are their whole lives are wrapped around making sure that they keep up with the pretense of wealth. And like that's the whole idea behind him going around stealing things, is these are things that other people have bought that they no longer understand the value for, or they think, they, not that they don't understand the value of it, but that they have so many of these things that they just can't even keep track of it. And so no one's going to miss a watch or two missing here or there.
Yeah.
And, ultimately behind everyone's facade of perfection lies like a really like rotted core of a person.
Just a little filthy, a little dirty. I think it's funny in this episode to see everyone hanging out where it's kind of like they are friends by neighborly association and money alone.
Yeah.
But it's a very thin thread connecting everybody. And as soon as something hits, it's backbiting, it's gossiping, it's full on fighting, as Coop.
Yeah, like everyone's frenemies. Everyone
frenemies. Yeah.
is frenemies.
That's a good way.
Like they're friends until it doesn't serve them anymore. And as soon as it serves them to jump on someone else, then they're going to do that. And just like, what an exhausting social circle to have to live in.
Yeah, not my jam is what I would say to that. I know some people who are quite wealthy and have been to their house and things like that, slash,
Mhm.
been at like garden parties or summer parties. It
Yeah.
is a really awkward experience. And having us been in church for so long where you're like friends because you go to the same church, it's a similar vibe of like, we're here because there's free food and we're slightly connected. And that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's funny. So, okay, so basically the auspice of this episode is that, the women have their self-defense class and the men have their like get together boys night in the
Hmm.
man cave. And so here's what I thought was funny which was, I thought, a good critique in the, Coop. Well, number one, Coop, before he ever goes to the men's night, he sneaks out and he tries to sneak into someone's house to steal something, but then he's caught up in the moment because the woman comes home with a mister that isn't her
Yeah.
husband, and he has to sneak into the wine kitchen or the wine fridge, and he sneaks off with a really expensive bottle of wine and doesn't get anything more than that, and then he brings that wine to the party, which is so funny. and
Which
then
is fun.
and then you get another voiceover narration of Coop saying, like, basically, this is what it all boils down to: is you get a bunch of men and they talk about brandy like it's a woman, and they, or scotch. They talk about
Yeah.
their scotch, and it's like kind of another commercial for scotch. And he's like, and this is just what our lives boil down to, and everything's already written and it's already done, and we're just gonna keep doing this over and over and over again until we die.
Yeah.
And it's a really good, I think, like introspective moment. Again, introspective moment for him, because I'm hoping that throughout the season he's going to realize that, like, oh my gosh, this is such a pathetic life that I've been living, and that I've got the trappings of success, but like it's nothing what I want.
Yeah, when they're cheersing with the scotch and he's kind of looking around, he has this like really
Mhm.
pensive, disgusted face at one moment. And I really
Yeah.
want to just like, maybe I'll take a screenshot of it or something like that. I don't know if we're allowed to do that. But regardless, and to me, I'm like, this is the show photo for me of like him
Mhm.
finally getting out of that rat race, even though he's taken on a criminal other one.
Mhm.
But knowing that we've watched further into it, I'm like, oh, it's not that simple. It takes a long time to detox or whatever. But I do like that he's able to sit back critically. And it makes you wonder, like, would we fix problems if more of these people hit rock bottom? Or would it create more monsters? Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't have the answer there, but
Yeah, well, I don't think the show's given us an answer yet, because
no.
so far his rock bottomness has just led him to
More
criminality,
debauchery.
more debauchery.
Yeah, and knowing, and we can already talk about this, it's been announced, knowing that season 2 has already been greenlit, I'm like, okay, you
Hmm.
can't wrap everything up.
Yeah.
Like, if this is our rich Breaking Bad, whatever else, he can't be a good guy by the end of season 1. So there's got to be
Hmm.
some more evil, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's what we got to talk about. So the boys' night, it moves from like the Scotch scene to the demoing the toilet scene in
Yeah.
the middle of in the middle of the
Middle of the
room,
room,
and then it
$30,000
moves
toilet.
to and then it moves to all of them are like moved to the basketball court in the basement, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't. Growing up, did you ever go to your friend's house that were like super rich and they had a basketball court in their basement?
We didn't have that in Bakersfield, California, but I did see it later in life. You know, my
Because
mission in Vegas or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, because I don't know, that feels very Mormon coded to me for
it
some
does.
reason.
It does.
Because because I swear I had like three or four really rich friends and would go to their homes and they had full on basketball courts in their basement. I'm just like, what the hell?
I mean, let's just go there. BYU basketball phenom that never went anywhere in the NBA, Tyler Hawes, had those videos about him making all
Yeah.
those free throws, and you're like, that's a kid who would have a basketball court in their basement.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Anyway, so they go to the Nick's basketball court in his basement, and he's like $1,000 for anyone that can score on me, and it just becomes like a male ego fest,
Yeah.
and no one can do it. Then there's this one guy who comes up, and he's like, "Yeah, I played D1 in college,
Jerry.
Jerry."
Yep. What a perfect
And then
name.
Jerry drives on him, jumps, lands weird, and cracks his leg in half. And there's bones sticking out of his leg, and there's blood everywhere. Why did this happen?
Why did this happen? And yet, I mean, on your mission, did a lot of people break their legs playing basketball? Because I know on ours, tons did.
Not really. I
Oh
mean,
my
maybe
gosh.
like no, someone might have broken a foot like playing in a turkey bowl on a Sunday or something, but like,
We have a friend of the pod who busted his leg halfway through his mission, went home and went back out because of it after surgery,
oh
torn
my God.
ACLs, meniscus all the time. I had multiple like friends of mine going up for a layup, and just because like you were walking a lot, but you weren't that physically active 7 days a week, They just would tear things all the time. Anyways, stupid. And it's especially stupid to watch these men. Yeah, he may have played D1. What is he now? 45, 46?
Yeah.
And just that bone was so gross.
It was. But I think what this does, I mean, outside of even being Mission's church ball, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's just an opportunity. So this is church ball. It's so funny, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, the show's so Mormon coded. Is that just because Mormon codedness is actually just like rich white people codedness? Because I wouldn't say Mormons are actually that rich, but like
they're pretty rich as a church per capita. Yeah, we're not like.
Well, I mean,
Dell, America, all these different JetBlue, all these different CEOs and stuff. I think there's a pretty good amount of that.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, there's parallels between church ball and what these boys are doing in this episode, which is they're just normal ass middle-aged men. And they're going too hard because their egos can't handle it. They cannot handle being normal, just being a regular guy. And then one of them suffers an intense consequence because of it.
I think it's fun to note that the whole entire party on the men's side is so cavemanish. And yet something that still happens. It's like very frequent.
Yeah.
I just had a bachelor party. I'm like, I get it. Like this is kind of what dudes do when they get together. And it's a little bit gross. That's just a little bit like annoying, just how cliche it is of like these dudes are playing pool around the table. Paul, the owner of the franchise, the restaurants, is showing off the brand new young waitress like sexy lingerie pictures to other guys. And they're like, oh man, chef must get the first pick. Just like kind of gross, not even kind of. It is gross. But there's something so male about it of like this need for validation, and the way to feel vulnerable is to like share accomplishments rather than feelings. And they're like, okay, well, here's what I'm doing. Here's my really cool ring. Nick pulls the guys over to his trophy case and he's like, here's my NBA winning ring. Okay, it feels childish now watching from the outside, but also knowing if you've been in any situation like that, you're like, oh, this is what happens. Like, it's not far off.
Yeah, but then you do get a cool moment where Coop kind of pushes back on Paul. I mean, it gets kind of tense, and that's the whole reason why Nick is like, okay, let's go to play basketball, because like Coop pushes back really hard on Paul, I think he's either talking bad about Sam or something.
He's talking bad about Sam.
Yeah, he's talking about Sam, and because you get the parallel story of Coop's divorce with his wife, and then Sam and Paul's divorce, and those are the two parallel like story beats that are happening in very different ways. Mm-hmm. And that's a fun kind of narrative device to look at the differences and how their friends and neighbors deal with the differences, right?
Yeah, I think it's fun too that we have these two main stories. The third story is Allie playing her show at some club, very like neon lights, whatever else. And Coop's son, played by Donovan Colan, Hunter, goes to see her, and he just kind of plays like the teen boy that we've seen all over the place the last 10 years. It's Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. It's a little hair sideways, wannabe Bieber. It's a little emotional. It's a little quiet, and it's unsure of himself. And she sits in the little bathtub with Hunter, and she kind of gives him a pep talk, which is funny because
he went to a party to play a band and took mushrooms and had a panic attack on stage, and then he called her and she left her show to come see him and talk him down from his mushroom panic attack.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about the mushroom panic attack, willfully or not willfully.
So real.
So real. We've all been there, haven't we? But I just love the idea of her as like the broken yet stepping up aunt who's there for him when Coop still is not. I mean, he's like trying to say he's trying to be there for his kids now that he has no job, but really he's still like very narcissistic and all about himself and finding that money.
Yeah, because even those beats where Coop is like, defending Sam or whatever, it's still about him.
Oh, yeah.
It's still about him punching down around these guys that he feels so superior to.
Yeah. It's the woman he's sleeping with.
Yeah. It's all about him punching down and being disgusted with what's around him. And even though he's still there, he's still a part of it. Yeah. He's not like, if he really wanted to do something, he wouldn't show up. He would change it. Right.
Yeah.
But so, okay, let's talk about the B story, which is the girls' night.
Yeah.
So you get all these rich women and they're drunk and on edibles, and then they get like a jujitsu instructor to come over and teach the martial arts? I don't know.
We're just going to say general martial arts. I know there's like a big pad on the ground.
Yeah.
I know that everyone's just kind of giggling. It's fun to see just everyone in yoga pants and being like, yep, this looks like a lot of LA right now. I like that Mel and Sam have that fun tussle that turns a little more intense. And then the snapback afterwards, which is they sit down next to each other in front of the couch, eating tortilla chips. And Mel finally gets to explain what happened with her and Cooper a little bit to Sam. Not knowingly to give her a word of warning. I don't know that she knows about the sex right now between them.
Yeah.
But it is just nice to see, oh, here's a difference. The women are just bearing their hearts and talking about the real things rather than skirting around. Here's my money, here's my watch, here's my scotch.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, vulnerability is nice to see. And they're both great actresses. So the whole scene lands.
It does. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are moments in this episode where I'm like, are they about to kiss or are they about to fight each other? And is this going to be like a weird, like an intense love triangle that's happening? Like, what is happening right now? And maybe that's just because women with emotional vulnerability, like they just can like, be more intimate and close with each other. But sometimes with those scenes, I was like, are they about to like punch each other or kiss? I can tell.
Or both.
Or both.
Is it wishful thinking? No, I'm just kidding. And I like, too, that we see a little more from Sam, because this is right after the fight between Coop and Paul. Yeah. And she then gets to explain her side. So we as the audience kind of see this tuffle, and we're like, oh, yeah, well, maybe Coop's like defending her too much. Maybe she really is kind of greedy or a hoe or whatever else. Then you see her side where she's like, Paul was always cheating on me. Like, he had all the money in the world. He had me, and he still could not get enough. And you're like, there we go. There's the vulnerable honesty. It's not just male fighting for fighting. That may have been what Coop was interested in, but the reality is this guy's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, and then we get Mel's side of the story, which is that Coop was basically absent from everyone's lives.
Yeah.
That he was trying so hard to keep up with the Joneses that he just was absent, which, is a tale as old as time.
I love the way she says it, too, of like, there's this chasm that just continued to widen between us. It's not so much that there was like a physical wedge or like, oh yeah, or like fights or whatever. It's just a chasm of not showing up, which I think is good to see in this way of, he's lost his job. He still is not showing up. And so he's never fixed the problem. He just has more time on his hands now, which doesn't fix things.
Yeah. And his whole need to steal things is making him late to every community event.
Every single one. I like that we have the $30,000 toilet make a snapback at the end where Coop's kind of looking around at everyone, the busted leg, you got blood on the floor, he's gotten in a fight with Paul and punched him, all these different things. And he's like, if you're looking for metaphors, look no further than a man vomiting in a $30,000 toilet that isn't connected to any plumbing. And you're like, that is the show. There's your wealth for you, a toilet in the middle of a room that's supposed to be a show-off piece, and some guy's just puking all over it. All right.
Yeah. And then, of course, the beat that we end on is Coop comes back to his own house, because we knew this was going to happen. At some point he was going to come in, and he's got this huge chip on his shoulder about Nick having slept with his wife and basically living his life now.
Yeah.
And so he comes down and figures out how to unlock the little locking mechanism and tries to steal his championship ring. And then you hear a gun cock, and then he turns around and he's like, okay, maybe I'm not as good as this is. And then we end. Yeah,
he gives a little narration, which I was tired of, and then I was more okay with, and now I think I just got used to it.
Yeah.
But he's like, my shrink would have had a field day with the situation of me breaking into my own house to steal a championship ring from the guy who's sleeping with my wife. But here we are. Episode 3, I like it. I think it gets better as the show goes on, especially with episode 4.
Yeah.
And we will have more of that next week. Any last notes before we sign off on this one?
Nope.
All right. Give that a watch if you haven't already. We hope you did before listening, because that was full of spoilers. And we'll catch us next week for Your Friends and Neighbors, episode 4.